Hey guys, welcome back to Token Tech. Today I'm bringing you yet another video because AMD just finished up the good part of their live stream and announced a lot of cool stuff with a lot of information. So we're going to go through that here, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due. AMD did not wait until the end of the live stream to give us all the info. They gave it to us all up front within the first 30 minutes of the live stream, and it really, I don't see the point in watching it anymore, so that's why I just canceled and started making this video. So first things first, they talked about 12-core CPUs, and that's what I have on the screen here. This is gaming performance of the 12-core, as you can see at the bottom, 3900X versus the 8-core 16-thread 9900K from Intel. And as you can see from their metrics, okay, this is their tests, the performance is very similar. Again, some games they're doing better, like CSGO, it looks like they're doing better. And in some games they're doing worse, like Devil May Cry 5, they're doing a decent chunk worse. So if you were to like average all of these together, it'd be about the same. And in that regard, that's pretty good because across the board, AMD was pretty substantially behind Intel when it came to gaming, depending on which game you were playing, especially in games like CSGO. I know that in CSGO, AMD CPUs just really tanked and could not give you the same level of performance that the Intel counterpart could do. Now, it's a little strange to me that they're showing 429 FPS in CSGO, but I'm pretty sure CSGO has a limit of 300, but, we'll let that be. Anyways, this is great. This is kind of what we expected. I believe this was the best image I could get for the 3600X, so this is $250 6-core 12-thread CPU. This is kind of the more mainstream CPU. And performance is looking quite like the last one. It has all the same gaming performance increases like the 12-core did. In some cases it wins, in other cases it loses. Average them all together, it's basically the same. So now you're getting virtually the same gaming performance at the same price, but with more cores and more threads, which is going to make it much better for multi-threaded applications, which AMD is already beating Intel in anyways. They showed a little streaming demo, and the 12-core can handle it, where the 9900K, an 8-core CPU, could not handle it. So just little interesting things like that. I think we all know that these CPUs are going to be great and good for the money. And if you saw the last video I just made, I don't know why people are freaking out about motherboard cost, because you can put all of these CPUs in 400 series motherboards and 300 series motherboards, which are all pretty cheap. So if you go with those and just give up things like PCIe Gen 4, which really isn't necessary, you can have a very inexpensive machine to put together. So, and these are all the prices. Don't really want to spend too much time going over this because this is stuff we already know. This is stuff that is all good. Nothing to complain about here. First thing to complain about right on the screen. You have the new Radeon, what is it called? Radeon 5700, right? And it has a blower design. Yes, a blower design. We thought they finally moved away from this because Radeon 7 had 3 fans, right? 3 front-facing fans that provided decent airflow and helped keep that card under control. Here we see the, radial fan that's just going to, a blower style. Really, come on, like, NVIDIA has moved on from this. We thought AMD moved on from this, but they came back to this design. I don't know why they came back to this design. No one likes this design. It's really bad. And they didn't talk about board partners, so we don't know when we'll be seeing aftermarket variants with more fans. So that's really going to suck for people who are waiting for this graphics card. Let's move on. So again, we get another look at it. Here we go, the Radeon RX 5700 XT. So this is kind of the higher end version. 40 compute units, 9.75 teraflops, 8 gigabytes of GDDR6. So no more HBM, we're doing GDDR6. 1905 boost clock. This is like the highest boost clock. I'm assuming this means it will peak to 1905, but there's no way it's going to sustain that. 1755 is the game clock, which I guess is what they're going to say is the consistent clock, what you'll get when you're gaming, and then 1605 is the base clock. I think this is good for them to do it this way, because with Vega, what a lot of people were getting upset about is it would say up to, let's say, 1650 megahertz, and they were getting 1550 megahertz, and they were wondering why were they 100 megahertz off of the boost clock, and really with stock settings, it can only peak to those boost clocks. You would have to really tinker with it to get that or more out of the card. So we'll have to see how overclocking goes on these cards, but at least they separated it up into 3 numbers, so you know, hey, when I'm gaming, I should get around 1755, and I'll see spikes of 1905. So the design. Okay, so this isn't the worst blower in the world. One, it has an aluminum shroud, which is nice because the old ones had plastic ones, which felt really cheap. It has a vapor chamber cooler right here. You can see that vapor chamber cooler. This is like Radeon 7. I'm pretty sure the Radeon 7 has vapor chamber cooling, and that helps. That helps quite a bit. Vapor chambers really do a good job of getting rid of heat and transferring heat. The thing is, they're expensive, so I'm pretty sure a good chunk of the cost is going into vapor chamber cooling. It would be interesting to see how well they could have done with a triple fan design or a double fan design without a vapor chamber, or how much better this vapor chamber could perform with a double fan or dual fan design. But we won't know unless an AIB does it, so we'll have to wait and see. But vapor chamber cooling, at least they're giving you a vapor chamber, and it's not just a small chunk of aluminum that's really bad. This might help. We'll have to wait and see. And they're using another a graphite thermal pad instead of thermal paste or something else. That's really interesting because this is not similar to the Vega cards, including Radeon 7, which can have kind of like an offset between the HBM and the actual die core, the core die. So that people were speculating that the reason why they used the thermal pad was to bridge that gap, because there could have been a little bit of a gap or just not leveled off, right? And so that would help fix that. Where this is just one chip, it should be completely flat, and they're using it again. So I wonder if they're getting some sort of cost savings or maybe production savings, like it's quicker to do it this way. That really is the only way, because it's not going to be as efficient as using a good quality thermal paste. Also, the issue with this is if you remove the cooler, you're removing that thermal pad, which means you're going to have to replace it, and that's going to be much harder to replace than thermal paste. So you'll probably just end up using thermal paste anyways. I'm just saying, if you wanted to keep it as stock as possible, but wanted to take off the cooler for whatever reason, you're going to be kind of out of luck. Now, you have an 8-pin and a 6-pin connector. I don't know, is that a good or a bad thing? I really don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't care. I used to have Vega graphics cards. I used to have a Vega 64 overclocked. It pulled a ton of power. I didn't care because it gave me really awesome performance. So 6-pin, 8-pin to me doesn't really matter, but for some others it might, especially if you have a really weak power supply. But a 6 and 8-pin are saying more power for more overclocking. Really, what limits you in overclocking is the architecture these days, so we'll have to wait and see what is going to limit us. Is the architecture friendly to overclocking? Can we overclock like crazy, or will this really not give us much overclocking at all? And we'll see if we can, do some unusual overclocking to try to get it to give us more performance. Now, of course, just in AMD standard, they're giving us an overbuilt PCB, which is fantastic. So it really should have everything going for it except for the cooling. That's the part that really gets me. They kept mentioning how we designed this to be really cool and quiet to give you better overclocking. I don't know about that. You're using a blower style card. I just don't agree with that statement whatsoever. Anyways, let's move on. So now we're going to look at, I believe these are some benchmark results that they have. Again, they're not giving us actual frames, so we don't know the exact numbers. So these percentages could mean a lot or they could mean little, because you got to remember, percentages, it's all relative to what the actual absolute value is. So for instance, if we were to look over here where it says a 2% increase in frame rate for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, if the bar on the left is 100 frames, then the AMD bar plus 2%, that's 102 frames. You get what I'm saying? So it could be almost nothing, or it could be huge, right? So take it with a grain of salt, but some games like, what is this, Battlefield 5, that's pretty awesome, right? 6% is good. 5% and below is kind of negligible, right? 15% is good. What is this, Metro Exodus? All right. So we're getting very comparable performance, and then it's losing in some games as well. It's like Civ 6, that's kind of weird. So comparable, yes. not really leading, which they kept saying we are market leading, segment leading in these. Well, if you're losing, you're not leading, right? You're losing here, you're not leading. So that was a little bit, it started to irritate me a little bit. And again, I'm an AMD fan, and I'm just letting you know my true feelings here. But all in all, not bad. Again, we have to look at the price before we make our judgment. So we're looking at all this, we're taking it all in, and we'll get to the price at the end just like they did. So now we get the next version, the Radeon RX 5700. So this is just the basic one. This is not the higher end one. Okay. 36 compute units, 7.95 teraflops, which really doesn't mean anything. It's all about gaming performance. 8 gigabytes of GDDR6, again, moving away from HBM2. 1725 boost clock, 1625 game clock, and 1465 base clock. So again, as we understand it, that 1625 is going to be more of the sustained boost, where the 1725 is like those peaks, right? It's going to spike up to 1725, maybe settle closer to 1625, but it really shouldn't go below 1465. Now let's hope you can overclock it to 1725 or more, but again, we'll have to wait and see. Being that it has a blower style cooler. Yeah. Anyways, on this graph, this is what you should be showing when you're claiming to be market leading. You are actually leading in every single game you're showing. Now, props to AMD for showing games where they lose. So they're not, hiding their losses. They're not trying to make themselves look better than they actually are. But I wouldn't use that term. I wouldn't use that terminology if you weren't winning in every category. Now in this segment, they are. So the 5700 versus the 2060, they are beating the 2060 in every game that they show. Again, they're not showing absolute numbers. They're showing percentages. These percentages could mean a lot. They could mean a little. Who knows unless we know the absolute values. That's why percentages don't really mean much by themselves. We'll have to wait for independent reviews to really see that. But if these are true and they're being very, very honest, at least trying to be, and trying to seem very trustworthy and saying that they're not doing any funny business here, we'll just have to take their word for it for now until we get third-party independent reviews like Gamers Nexus, Hardware Unboxed, and so on. Again, these numbers could mean a lot, they could mean a little. Now the 21% on Battlefield 5, 16%, and the 212%, those are pretty substantial, right? So basically Battlefield 5, Black Ops 4, New Dawn, Metro Exodus, those are all pretty substantial. Civ 6 and Division 2 are decently substantial. All the rest of them, like the 6%, the 4%, the 2%, those are such small percentages. Unless you know the absolute values, you don't know if those really matter. But anyways, 21%, even without the absolute value, you can say that's a pretty substantial increase. Okay, enough about that. Here is the the big ticket right here. You have the 5700 XT at $449, right? $449, $50 cheaper than the cheapest, without barring all sales and discounts. The cheapest 2070 is about $500, and this is coming in at $449, so about $50 cheaper for about comparable performance. But reminder, no ray tracing, none of that stuff. Now, of course, they did have their own features, which I haven't mentioned yet. Right? They had this lag reducer, right, which was pretty cool. That was actually pretty cool. With the same frame rate, without increasing frame rate, it reduced the lag, which is really, really amazing. I'm sensitive to lag and input lag, so that feature is awesome. I wonder if they will put that on their older graphics cards, maybe on Vega, or if it's only for the new stuff. But anyways, that's a cool feature. Another one made the games look prettier. You had better contrast and you could see some extra details, and they made a big deal about it and saying how they were not going to release a feature that ruins your frame rate and then artificially increases it, basically getting at DLSS and ray tracing on NVIDIA. But anyways, I just thought that was a little funny. $449, is that a good price? Is it a good price? I guess time will tell if people actually buy it, but for me, no, that's not a good price. $50 cheaper than an overpriced graphics card is not a good price. NVIDIA can easily drop the price, meaning that what do you do then when they drop the price? Because it's already, it's their best-selling RTX card, is the 2070. You have to beat the best-selling RTX card, and it's one of the worst value RTX cards. So people are buying it even though it's a bad buy for $500+ in some cases, and you come in at $449. This should be at least, or sorry, at the most, a $400 graphics card if they want to compete against NVIDIA's most popular RTX graphics card. This doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not saying this because I want NVIDIA to drop their prices. I want this card to succeed, and with this price, I don't think it can succeed. Okay, now let's go to the other side. The 5700 at $379. $380 for this card. Now, yes, this card in their tests did better than the 2060. But the 2060 starts at $250. And I was at Micro Center today, and there were plenty of 2060s for $350. Plenty of them for $350 on the shelf just waiting to get purchased. They don't have to lower the price. They're not going to sell this card. This card is basically dead in the water. Yeah, to enthusiasts, some will buy it. To the fanboys, they will buy it. But to the mass, I put that in air quotes, market of PC gamers, they're going to look at this and look at a 2060 and go, well, 2060, NVIDIA's gamers, blah, 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 RTX, ray tracing, let me go with that one. And even if they get the base model, it still has two fans. This doesn't. This has an axial fan. This has a crappy blower cooler on it, right? It looks old. It looks bad. It's more expensive. It doesn't make any sense. This card should have been $300. It should have been, we are getting better performance for less money. Go buy this card. And then have all the reviewers go, wow, $300. This is a great value. Go buy this card. And have everyone talking about how great value this card is because it beats the competition for less money. The same way they did with what card? With the 570. When NVIDIA launched the 1650, almost all the reviewers, almost all of them went, hey, the 570 is $20 cheaper than the base price of the 1650. You get aftermarket designs, and it handily outperforms it. Everyone should go buy this card. I don't know how that affected their sales, but almost every reviewer was talking about how good the 570 was. That's what they should have done here. It should have been $300 for the 5700, and all the reviewers would have been like, wow, this card is amazing for $300, and it beats the 2060. Everyone go buy it. And the 5700, it's losing in some cases. Some of the games it's losing. It has to come in cheap enough to compete with the most popular RTX card. That's all I'm going to say. It's the most popular RTX card. I don't understand why, but that's what it is. They have to come in and say, wow, they're $100 cheaper and offer the same performance. Go buy this card. That's how you are disruptive when you have comparable performance. This isn't doing it for me. I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Is this price good? I don't like these prices. I'm an AMD fan. I want these prices to be lower because I want them to succeed. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want. I want these cards to sell. I want them to get market share. I want them to get some revenue. These prices, I really don't think these cards are going to sell. I think people are going to still buy RTX over this, and especially if the performance is true, we know now that Jensen was picking the prices for the RTX cards right before he went on stage and announced it. He knows he has a lot of wiggle room to drop prices if he needs to. And with the whole Super announcement coming up, we know that they're probably going to release higher end or higher clocked or, better versions of these RTX graphics cards, and they will probably drop the price of the current versions of these RTX graphics cards, which will then make these prices look even worse. I don't think AMD really gets it, but I did see this coming. I didn't want to make any videos on Navi because I didn't want to talk about rumors and do all that stuff, but I predicted, and I've argued with people on Reddit about it, that they would launch at about the same price as as their NVIDIA counterparts. And everyone was so upset with me, but I'm like, look, Radeon 7 launched at $700 to compete with the 2080, which is $700. It doesn't have ray tracing. And yes, you can say, well, it has 16 gigs of HBM2, but most people don't need 16 gigabytes of HBM2. You might say, well, in the future, I'll need it. Well, by the time you need 16 gigabytes of HBM2, that GPU core, the Vega core, will be so slow, you're going to want to upgrade anyways. So I knew they were going to do something funny with the prices. And I think a lot of people started to get that through their heads as time went on. And these prices to me are just awful. just pure awful. So please let me know down below what you guys think. Are you going to buy these cards? Are you going to go used? Because I prefer buying used cards anyways, because the performance to price is just off the charts. Are you going to buy Nvidia? Are you going to wait to see what Super has in store? Are you going to see if anything has price drops? Maybe they'll drop the price of this in 3 months. Who knows what they're going to do? I just don't see them doing very well at these prices. Anyways, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.